Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nur Maulana Shah Karim Hussaini Hadrima. Tawfiq, Taid, Himmat, Yari. Tawfiq, Taid, Himmat, Yari. We have actually received a question about spiritual science. From past few lectures, we had mentioned this term. So today we'll try to discuss this term in a very simple way, and let's see how do we understand it today. Spiritual science is actually same as physical science. They both are sciences. If we were to take an example of a rope, the higher end of the rope would be called spiritual science, and the lower end of the rope will be called physical science. As we have learned that the physical science came into being through observation and studies. And these observations and studies are based on nature. In nature, everything happens automatically. We see sunrises, sunsets, day is there and then there is night, weather come and go. So everything is happening on its own. Based on this observation of nature, humans have created so many inventions. Now our lives are so many things we do are done for us automatically. Just take this example of phone. Today we are able to communicate so easily without any big gadgets. Like for example, even a letter used to take years or months to reach another party in another country. Today it takes not even a second. As you text, this person at the other end of the world receives it. So all these inventions of plane, rocket, you name it, everything is based on the observation and studies of nature. A branch of physical science is medical science. Same way, through observation and study of physical body, we now know what is health. And if there are disease patterns observed, what are the treatments which work? So the key here is that in order to learn science, one has to study and observe. तालीम लेनी है और मुशाहिदा करना है. Now, in order to understand spiritual science, we need to know about soul. Again, same method, study and observation. Through the study of true knowledge, we learned from the books of our Buzurgwar-e-Deen, our Ginans, our Farmans, and of course Quran, that there is a wisdom which we need to learn in this knowledge. There is an interesting hadith by Prophet Muhammad. He says, Al-hikmatu zalatul mu'min, that wisdom is the lost treasure of mu'min. It is a lost treasure of a mu'min. In Quran, there is a verse, chapter 2, 269. If a friend wants to read that, that would be awesome.
Surah 2, ayat 269. वो जिसको चाहता है दानाई बख्शता है, और जिसको दानाई मिली बेशक उसको बड़ी हिकमत मिली, और नसीहत तो वही लोग कबूल करते हैं जो अक्लमंद है. He give wisdom unto whom he wills, and he whom wisdom is given, he truly have received abundant good, and none remember except men of understanding.
Subhanallah, thank you. He gives wisdom to those who he pleases. And the one who receives the wisdom has received abundant good. Khair-e kasir. But none remembers. Except ulul albab, the people of understanding, the people who are aqlmand, danishmand. Very interestingly about this verse, It says none remembers. Our peers have actually talked about it. They've said, there's a verse by P. Saduddin, he says, Atma Ram tame bada ginani, tari vigat kere na jaan. That the whole wisdom and true knowledge is actually within our soul, but no one knows about it. The true wisdom, the treasure of wisdom, is actually ours. The knowledge of spirituality is ours, but it has been forgotten right now. And all these efforts of studies and observation are undertaken to recall what has been forgotten. There's an interesting farman by Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our souls be sacrificed to this Imam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Mawla says that under the feet of human, there is a treasure. But he does not move his feet this way or that way. So the treasure can be obtained. It can be accessed. The treasure is right there under the feet. But there has to be effort taken to be able to get to it. It is so interesting that in physical life, we all have taken years and years of studies and efforts to become somebody, like a profession or a businessman or whatever we are trying to do in this physical world to live our living. We have worked hard for it. Same principle applies to get spiritual knowledge. And this knowledge is undertaken, this effort is undertaken to recognize the soul. Maula Ali says, Man arfa nafsehi fakat arfa rabbehi. That recognition of yourself is the recognition of law. Recognition of self? What do we understand by self? I know who am I? So it's not the recognition of me as a person physically, but it's the recognition of my soul is actually recognition of the Lord. How do I learn about my soul? Now, soul, if it is outside the body, it's abstract. Nobody can touch it, nobody can listen to it, nobody can know it's there. But if the soul is in somebody's body, there's a physical life. We can talk to that person, we can touch that person. All senses can be utilized to communicate to that person who has the soul in the body. Now, the general understanding is that soul is one. But that's not true. Soul is actually divided in unlimited numbers of particles. There is a world of particles. ALWAAZ. Interestingly, our physical body, we see each other as one. We seem to be appearing as one. But if we were to be studying ourselves microscopically inside our bodies, we are divided into unlimited numbers of cells. Unlimited numbers of cells performing their function. Here I recall a Quranic verse, which chapter 4, verse 1. It says that we all have been made from single soul. Single soul of Allah, which was divided into multiple souls, and today we have world of humanity. ALWAAZ. Allah's habit never changed. We have learned that through verse 30 by 30. His habit never changed. So he created one soul, and from that soul, there's a multitude of souls. One body, multitude of cells. One soul, world of particles. Each cell in our body has life. It has a function and it has a life. How does that cell get life? It's through the particle of the soul. When a person dies, the dead body still has cells, but there's no life in it. So the soul, the particle of that soul in the cell gives life to that cell to perform its function. How do we know that? Our peers have taught us, our peers have told us. Pir Sayyid Imam Shah says, Eji rome rome maro shah vase. Eji rome rome maro shah vase ane antar nahi ek dil. Evo janine bhaktai kijiye. Shah par tak baitha gaya. Subhanallah, Subhanallah. He says, oh Mu'mins, Within every pore. Now, pore is what? The opening in our skin, which is actually a cell. Oh, within every cell, my Imam resides. He isn't remote by a distance of a grain. Knowing this, perform your duties, your devotions. The Imam is present and seated in the heart. Subhanallah. Beautiful verse. So, Momin cells are blessed and spiritually alive. Now, remember, we have learned that Momin here we are using as a particular term, the one who has accepted to be taking true knowledge. He accepts that he lacks knowledge and he has to learn. He is a student in this path of true knowledge, as well as he does zikr or ibadat. A person who only does ibadat is going to be called abid. A person who only studies is actually mustajib. But a true Momin, in a true sense, Momin is the one who does both. And we have often heard this example of canoe having two oars. If we were to use one, we'll be just going round and round, not going further. Now, for these kind of moments, Quran has a beautiful verse. Again, I would like to request you to read 39 by 23, please.
सूरह 39 आयत 23 खुदा ने निहायत अच्छी बातें नाजिल फरमाई हैं किताब मिलती जुलती और दोहराई जाती जो लोग अपने परवरदिगार से डरते हैं उनके बदन के रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते हैं फिर उनके बदन और दिल नरम खुदा की याद की तरफ हो जाते हैं यही खुदा की हिदायत है वो इससे जिसको चाहता है हिदायत देता है और जिसको खुदा गुमराह करे उसको कोई हिदायत देने वाला नहीं Allah has revealed the fairest of statements, a scripture whose verses are alike in meaning and fairness, repeated over again. Where do creep the flesh of those who fear their Lord, so that their flesh and their hearts soften to Allah's reminder. Such is Allah's guidance, wherewith He guide whom He will, and him whom Allah sent astray, for him there is no guide.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. Thank you so much. So I'm going to read a translation by Yusuf Ali because I'm looking for a good meaning of the word takashur. Takshur. So here I have translation as Allah has revealed the most beautiful message in the form of book, consistent with itself, repeating. The skins of those who fear their Lord shiver from it. Then their skin and their hearts soften to the remembrance of Allah. That is the guidance of Allah, which He guides whom He wills. So moments who do zikr abundantly during daytime and sit in ibadat during nurani time, along with its understanding of it through the true knowledge, their cells are spiritually alive and they shiver. This shivering is noticed physically, experienced physically, and it is due to the abundance of zikr, due to the fear of Lord, due to the love of Imam. This shivering takes place, and it is pure miracle of Mawla that we experience this spiritual elevation in our bodies. And this shivering leads to purification, tathir, purification of our soul. Why do we need to purify ourselves? The way we have to clean our bodies so we stay healthy, similarly there are dirt in our soul of so many kinds. And we have talked about batni bimariya. Those sickness keeps us impure. Though we take knowledge, but those impurities weigh us down, so we cannot elevate ourselves. This shivering or zalzala helps us in purifying. Every cell connects to that particle which is alive, becoming alive, more alive, through the abundance of the zikr. And then in this verse also, the beginning verse says that it praises the book, consistent with itself repeating. So it's physically, it seems like the tanzeel is that it's talking about Quran. But if you were to understand the ta'wil of it, it is talking about that beautiful name which is alive. That is Isme Azam. And again, how do we know all this? Because our peers have taught us. Our peers said, Sat Shabad hai Guru Hamara. It is the Isme Azam, the living name of my Guru, my beloved. That is the one which connects to each particle of my being. And then it results in purification. And this miracle, this spiritual elevation is noticed by you. Sometimes spirituality is difficult because we do not get any evidence of results very quickly. And we wonder, is it working for me or not? So through true knowledge, we would know what are the miracles experienced in our being. That would tell us that yes, we are on the right path and we are elevating ourselves. This verse also mentions heart, softening of heart. It is only due to the love of Imam when we do the zikr abundantly. Not only every particle which becomes alive, but it softens the heart too. Now, again, through physical science, we know the heart is the most important organ. It sends purified blood to the whole body, so it functions. If heart were not to work, no cells would have the total functioning capability. Through each particle becoming alive, reaching it to the heart, becoming soft, our heart becomes soft, meaning it gets connected to our Isme Azam. That heart weaves, does Girya wa Zahari in Ishq of Mawla. It becomes soft due to the abundance of zikr. Now someone can challenge and ask, cells are there in the animals too, in other human beings too. What does that mean? Remember, the difference is that there is abundance of zikr and ibadat. Each cell in human being has the capability of living like an animal, waking up, doing things just like animals do. And that has been told to us by Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, that a man can live his life just like an animal, earning his wages, looking for food, having children. There's no difference. But when we talk about Mu'min who does the abundance of zikr, who is taking true knowledge, his cells are different, because the particle of the soul is feeding that cell spiritual life. Now, we were talking about recognizing our soul. So we understand the world of particles working in each cell of our body. So let's reveal a secret here and say that recognition of soul is actually the recognition of Israel angel. The angel we know as Malkul Maut, the angel of death. Now we know this angel as one, but remember, Allah's habit do not change. Israel is one, but he is not one. He has an army of angels who is constantly working. In Quran, there is a verse 32/11, which says the angel of death put in charge of you will take your souls, then you shall be returned to your Lord. Tarjaun. Meaning that this angel actually is with us all the time, because he's our in charge, he's our guardian, he's all the time. So it kills that misconception that the Malkul Maut only comes at the time of death when we are dying, which is not true. He's always with us, and this knowledge is given to us through Quran. There's interesting hadith by Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad says that sleep is the younger sister of our death. Neend maut ki choti behan hai. How interesting is that? What does that mean? In our sleep and when we die, we become unconscious, unaware of our surroundings. And both these miracles actually are performed by Israel. We do not know that Israel with us all the time. Whenever we are tired, we want to sleep, it is him who actually puts us to sleep so he can seize all the tired souls which are replaced by fresh souls. We were talking about blessings, the treasures of Allah. One of the treasure and the blessing is Israel. If he were to be not with us, we would never become fresh to do what we need to do. We would always be tired. It is only through him that we go to sleep and he seizes our tired souls. But that's not only his function. In reality, Israel seizes our soul 5 different ways, 5 different times. We talked about 2. The third is actually during successful ibadat of a moment. When a moment does a very, very good ibadat, meeting all the conditions of how to be doing the ibadat, then he seizes the soul of that moment at that time during the ibadat. Again, how do we know that? Mullah Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our souls be sacrificed to this Imam, says that you need to make your soul lighter. अपनी रूह को हल्का कर, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता वो उड़ने लगेगी. इल्म वाली रूह दर्जा ब दर्जा ऊपर चढ़ेगी. How interesting this farman. It's one same farman. He talks about soul flying, making it lighter, flying, but then he says ilm wali ruh darja ba darja upar chadegi. Meaning he's emphasizing both the aspects, ibadat as well as knowledge. It is through knowledge we would know what we are doing, what is the next signpost so we can continue to go further. During a successful ibadat of a moment, remember, particle by particle, the change is happening gradually. A time comes when the soul is seized by Israel. Again, do we have example of it? Yes, we do. Missionary Kararua. He would go under the knife in operation without any anesthesia, without any pain medication. How can a human do that? How can a human do that? It is unimaginable, impossible. But we have example in our tariqah of a missionary. How did he do that? Just imagine, would he sit at the operation table and start doing bandagi at that time? Or would he start calling Israel, please come and seize my soul so my operation can be done? What do you think would be happening? Or we can say that he became Israel for his own soul. Something to think about. Mullah Sultan Muhammad Shah has said another farman. Mullah says that it is up to a human to take a direction. And there are 2 directions for us. To become a human or to become an animal. Choice is ours. So to conclude today's session, we'll continue talking about it, but to conclude here, we would say that same methods of learning are used as we use it in physical science, in our physical life, through observation and studies. Studies come first, and with studies, of course, we know in physical life, when we study, there are practical hours too. There's a lab work or whatnot. There's a physical part, a practical part to it too. Similarly, in spiritual sciences, we are studying, practices our ibadat, doing zikr or bandagi the whole day, abundance of zikr. And then there comes mushahida, observation, through our spiritual senses, our batni senses. This mushahada is different from our physical observation, but it happens after some time because we have to bring life. We have to bring our each self to life. The way we talked about this verse, 15/21. وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِلَّا عِندَنَا خَزَائِنُهُ وَمَا نُنَزِّلُهُ إِلَّا بِقَدْرٍ مَعْلُومٍ. That all the treasures are there, but they are given to us in a specific quantity if we were to meet the criteria. In physical science, we all know H2O is a water. It's a formula to make a water. 2 hydrogen atom and 1 oxygen atom. If we were to combine it, we will have water. Similarly, in spiritual science, if we were to follow it the way it has to be followed, the formula to be mixed the way it has to be mixed, elevation is given. But the effort has to be taken in a right way with correct understanding. Inshallah, we are in this knowledge, we are in a right path, and we are trying to learn, we are trying to do our tasbihat and zikr. Mawla is Rahman and Rahim, He will elevate our ranks and we will all be one with Him. Ameen, Ya Rabbal Alamin. Shukran lillah, walhamdulillah, shukran.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
If friends have questions, I would request them, because we have not done it completely. We will keep talking about it, inshallah. Need your prayers to continue this work. So if you have questions, do text me. Any comments are appreciated. And we will, inshallah, talk about it in coming weeks too. Ya Ali Madad.
अगर कोई क्वेश्चन हो, कमेंट्स हो तो प्लीज गो अहेड. अगर नहीं तो यहाँ पर हम इस क्लास को रोकते हैं. इंशाल्लाह ताला इमाम आपके साथ है, मौला आपके साथ है, और हम इमाम का हुक्म हुआ तो नेक्स्ट वीक आपके सामने दोबारा से हाजिर हो जाएंगे. या अली मदद, या अली मदद.
Yeah, man, thank you.